Wow, you guys. What's up, everybody? I just watched Megadoc, the documentary sequencing the behind the scenes and the making of Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis. And I just have to say, what an experience watching that movie. You know, some people might even argue that it's better than the film itself than Megalopolis. I would not be one of those people. Megalopolis to me is no joke, probably the greatest movie ever made. Super ambitious. It's the full spectrum of consciousness. Perhaps the story is, a little bit weird, a little bit finicky. We don't really know what's going on most of the time, but the message, one of hope, one of optimism, one of humans being a miracle, one of deciding as a people which way we're going. Are we going towards this utopia, or are we going to let, the people in the systems that have safeguarded, civilization and what it means to exist, or are we going to push the boundaries? Are we going to, initiate mankind into a new kind of future where we're always advancing and evolving? Not only ourselves, but our spaces, our connections to the earth, for the future generations. And so it's just so beautiful. And the fact that Caesar can stop time, because he sees it. He's got the future in his hands, but it's just people don't want him to implement it. I mean, it's just a lot of really interesting. And then we have Shia LaBeouf, the Joker character, who was a false idol, and the people later realized, and he's hanging upside down with a dollar bill in the background. All these really interesting shots. He's like a Joker character. Yeah, it's just opportunism, and spiritual warfare, and Megalon. What is even Megalon? To me, Megalon kind of feels like the Holy Spirit, manifested into a physical thing, an entity. Anyways, that's enough of my thoughts on Megalopolis. This video is about Megadoc. I can confidently say I haven't enjoyed watching a movie in theaters other than Megalopolis, because I watched it like 4 or 5 times, because I just always wanted to watch it. I wanted to be immersed in Megalopolis, like just have it in the background while I'm working, while I'm reading. Just the visuals, the beauty of that film. I mean, so ambitious, so much in there. It's definitely the kind of film to watch more than once. But I have not laughed as much in a theater with other people than during Megadoc. And it was incredible. It was a beautiful experience. It was so funny. It was way funnier than I thought. I didn't think it's gonna be, that hilarious. The process of it and how absurd. At one point, Coppola's even saying people working on this film don't really realize how weird this movie actually is. For him to say that, and the quarrels with Shia LaBeouf, to come up to Shia at the end and say, I have one regret with this movie, and it's you. Because Shia didn't really know what he wanted. And even Dustin Hoffman, he said he was picked for this character, for this role, and even after filming it and finishing the movie, he didn't know if he did a good job or not, because he still didn't understand who his character was. But it's so beautiful, honestly. I mean, I was watching this YouTube documentary of the path to Megalopolis, and this channel did a really good job. It's almost had 1 million views now, but it's this doc. I mean, it's not a doc, it's just it is documenting like his process, the first times he mentioned Megalopolis when he was so much younger, and just how he looked was so different. And to see how he is today with the picture actually realized is so trippy. It's such an experience to see him talk about it in all the different stages of his life, and then to finally manifest it and create it. And just the whole idea of like, why not invest all my monies, all my lifetime earnings into something which I think is beautiful. You know, just that mentality that Francis Ford Coppola had coming into Megalopolis and filming it. It's his biggest movie. You know, $170 million he put into it or something absurd. And, you know, as someone who has recently gotten into the film industry, I still feel like I'm on the outside looking in, but I've had a lot of really incredible experiences in the film industry. And just, you know, like what it is like you have this purpose, this goal. Everyone on set has this specific task. The director is like the commander. He calls the shots and everyone's working and steering the ship to try to create the director's vision. And just seeing how much it is like military or something, like you're going to war. It could be like that, you know, of course. But Francis's approach is, I want to do this to have fun, to play. And that's what I think I went away with from Megadoc more than anything else. You know, his emphasis on, like, sometimes he would literally tell the crew, you guys are working too hard at this. It's too much grit. I want them to play more. They're not listening to me. And he says, you know, nothing great has ever happened with just sheer grit and work. The most, you know, the most long-lasting and impactful things is always done through play. That's what we do, you know, as humans. That's where we enter flow state. And, you know, even driving a bus could be hell, or it could be seen as a game. And the bus driver could, you know, really have a different attitude and mood and vibe about them if they see it as a game, swerving back and forth and just really enjoying it, taking people's tickets in, closing the door and getting on the road, swerving away from the cars. Just, you know, this is like an Alan Watts lesson or something, but it's a very profound philosophy. And the fact that in Megalopolis there's so many improv games, and we get to see in Megadoc how the actors first started playing these games, what that was like, the relationship with the actors to each other, to Coppola himself, is really hilarious. It's so funny. And everyone just adds something so unique to it, you know. So yeah, I really just enjoyed the playfulness, like how much of you know, I always tell this to people, and recently people that I've met in the film industry. And the film industry is so interesting because you don't know what's gonna happen. I've been in it like 3-4 months. I've already helped like bring some short films of my friends to life, who's really up there in the industry. I'm standing next to like A-list actors on set for 6 to 8 hours doing the same scene. You know, you get called to a job in like this really cool part of town in a cool building. I was just at the CN Tower recently, you know, for this event, pretending to be a photographer. And I just met the coolest people, you know. And I met Miss Vicky herself from Miss Vicky's, the chip company. She was there giving a talk. And then I met someone who worked with Kanye for stage direction. You know, it's just like, this industry is really interesting. And so anyways, I really appreciated seeing a glimpse into the behind the scenes, you know. And it's kind of like what Shia was talking on that interview with the little like Asian comedian and the ginger guy. I forget what the interview is called or the show, but he was saying like working with Coppola, he saw how Coppola is actually able to move the industry. I mean, he bought a hotel to film a lot of Megalopolis in, and he destroyed walls, you know, took down walls. He just did what he needed to in the hotel to create the stages for the different scenes, the set design. I mean, so much goes into it, and you really can just appreciate it, especially being in the industry, how much work was put into this. And I cannot thank Coppola enough. Well, I can start by pronouncing his name right? I don't know if it's Coppola or Coppola, but it always changes. I'll just say Francis. And I love in Megalopolis how the kid's name, if it's a boy, we will call him Francis. And if it's a girl, Sunny Hope. What? Like that's incredible. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I've seen Megalopolis so many times, a bunch of times in theaters and just in the background, and it had so many parallels with my life. It was around a time when this movie came out, and I had no idea about it until I saw it, and it's out in theaters. Let me go watch it. But I wasn't anticipating it as much, and it was around the time I just got into the film industry, and or you know what, I didn't get into it. I was on my way, but the quotes, you know, I was really into architecture at that time. The fact that Caesar is an architect and he has this vision for a future state of being and a physical world, one of healing, one that will, healthy spaces. And he sees it and he's able to stop time. So he knows this is inevitable, like this is the path to go. But all these other bad characters around him is just like the people we meet in life. um it's yeah, the people quoted in it, the philosophers, the Ralph Waldo Emerson is heavily quoted on there. And then the fact that Coppola was actually inspired quite a bit by Miro de la Mirandola's The Dignity of Man. On the oration, it's an oration, he gave a speech on the dignity of man. He gave it in Florence, I believe. He was a young guy. He was named the father of the philosopher of the Renaissance, Pico de la Mirandola. Pico. um Great book. I've read that so many times after discovering that Coppola actually used that for a lot of the inspiration, and kind of like the speech Caesar gives in the last few scenes about like man being a miracle, like what are we doing here? We need to become a success on earth. And Buckminster Fuller, another futurist architect, talked a lot in the same way. I mean, Bucky was on a whole different wavelength. He was a really interesting character. He had a lot of different ideas, and he invented the geodesic dome, which we still see everywhere. And a lot of the things he said about the future and the world we will inhabit is actually coming to be. So, futurists and people who think about these issues, and now we should think about it more than ever, because it's like in Megalopolis. The city itself is immaterial, but people are starting to have the conversations, whether it's like how to create a better work environment for you and your colleagues in this like last few years of bureaucracy as it still exists, or it's actually creating like new spaces and universities and schools for students to actually critically think and to learn how to connect with each other better, and to learn their craft and master their field in an environment that actually allows for free thought. Simple, beautiful spaces that actually give way to, stimulating consciousness. And like in our world today, consciousness is not cultivated, and it's not a priority, it seems, anymore, especially in the kids, in the ways that they're taught in schools and everything. So this movie really challenges on so many different fronts issues we have today, and it's just so beautiful that it's like put together side by side with comparing America as a Roman Empire, as the Roman Empire, and it's like this new Rome is what the city's called that Megalopolis is in. So a lot of people during the making of it, it seemed like pure chaos, and even the actors had no idea what to do and what Francis wanted. But it's like that the guy who plays the Italian black dude, I forget his name, but he plays the Mayor Cicero, Julia's father. He says in Megadoc that even though like all of us don't understand the vision, he believes Coppola has something up his sleeve. Like there's stuff he knows that we don't know yet about this movie. And after watching it, that's definitely the case, you know, like it documents in Megadoc. I mean, it definitely should have been called Megadoculus. I feel like instead of Megadoculus. So good. Could be called anything, honestly. It would be great because the way it was made is very well. It's very well done. But it chronicles, you know, how Francis Ford Coppola got rid of the special effects team because they were confused as well. You know, they're like, we gotta change the sky. We gotta, like, this is a fantasy. Like, it's so interesting. Even the genre on Google, if you Google Megalopolis, like, what genre is this movie? That's what it is. It's like so cutting edge, and there hasn't been a movie like it ever. So it's like, what do we even say this movie is? Let's see. Okay, they label it as a sci-fi drama. Yeah, so satire, thriller, romance, political drama, science fiction. That's hilarious. It's awesome. It's everything, dude. It's just, and it's like psychedelic. Oh my gosh. If anyone's into microdosing, that's the movie to watch. You know, but all I'm saying, right, is I'm into artists and people who push things forward. Like, a lot of people don't see the genius in Megalopolis, and not to toot my own horn, but when I first watched it, everything made sense to me. It was like the journey of being alive and being, you know, a creative in this world, and how much pushback you get. I mean, Ye or Kanye West is probably the greatest example of that, and it reminded me quite a bit of, you know, what Kanye's got going on and how he's thinking of building cities. Yeah, I still would love to hear Kanye's opinion on Megalopolis. He probably will say something about it in interviews to come. And especially Grimes. You know, those are like the two opinions I would have loved to hear what they had to say, Grimes and Ye, about the movie. And Grimes did. Like on X, she just started, you know, saying how she loved it and she thought the characters were too perfect. But she still alludes to her being the only one who seems to like the movie out of all her friends and her friend group. Which is so cool because, yeah, I feel the same exact way. When it first came out, I'd like post so much about it, and even like edit stills from the movie that I took, like just pictures. And people would say like, chill, like, you know, it's not that good, like we don't even know what's going on. People say it failed the box office, yada yada yada. And, you know, watching that, how Megalopolis came to be, the documentary I talked about earlier on YouTube, it's not really a documentary, it's just a good YouTube video. I watched Stardust, or at least I started it, by Coppola as well. And Stardust is like Megalopolis's baby. Or I mean, it's not its baby because Megalopolis was it. It's like the baby. It's like baby Megalopolis. Yeah, it's like, you know, it's like just coming out the womb, just fresh, initial, you know, putting that together is like the brain baby of this gigantic thing that we have now known as Megalopolis. And it's beautiful. I love Stardust's idea. You know, he comes into a pole, he's like, there's a portal over there and some guy's guarding it. We can't let you through. And he just runs past him and gets into the portal. He's like, it's just a field, which it was. It's just a field. I mean, even that, like, try to wrap your head around what that means, you know? Wow. But yeah, I mean, Megadoc is freaking inspiring. It's so beautiful. I always tell people there should be more theater kids in the world. Like, if we had more theater kids, just as friends, things seem lighter. You laugh more. You just enjoy the absurdities of life a little bit more. And that's what the cast and seeing, like, you know, everything they were doing while filming it felt like. They're just having so much fun, and it's hilarious, and it's like the craziest the craziest things you could imagine happening on set in this film, and also just the the goings on with the actors, how they feel about it, and having them voice their opinions about a scene or about Coppola. You know, Aubrey Plaza saying he's a genius, but he's very repressed. You know? But it is definitely, this movie is a stroke of genius. Um, and I just, yeah, the playfulness, really, that's what I took away from the whole process. And I'm so glad there was someone to actually follow the making of this ambitious, you know, film. And just seeing like how Francis Coppola is always just wearing a different scarf, you know, wearing socks that are mismatched, that are so funky. So good, so good. I started wearing my scarf around the house, you know? That's what it's about. And seeing like so much of the improv games in the actual movie and how they would play them, and you know, that's kind of how the first few days of shooting, there wasn't actual shooting, there was nothing like that. It was just them sitting in a gym, all the actors, and you see this in Megadoc, and they're just playing improv games, getting to know each other. And he would ask them the craziest questions, like say one line, whichever line comes to mind during the casting process. And that's also documented, which is so funny how people did like the interviews, or you know, the how they auditioned to play these different roles. And the fact that some actors read this script like 25, 30 years ago is so bonkers to me. Like, you know, we don't have a lot of artists at the front of the industry, at the top of it, who devote themselves this much to or this long to a vision. You know, it's very admirable. Yeah. And against all odds, you know, Coppola has done this before. People say that a film is not going to be successful, so he just takes it, runs with it, and makes it himself, like with Apocalypse Now. And turns out it's like, you know, genre defining and cinematic uh, timelessness, you know. And it's that ambition he has, and he really challenges what it means to make a film and to make it so visceral. Like with Megalopolis, it's not even so much the images are there to put the vision into our minds of what he's talking about when he's talking about like a beautiful future, but it doesn't have to do with the images very much, you know. It's actually more like how you feel, and the music is so powerful, and the orchestras, orchestratic, is that a word? Orchestratic beauty of the soundtrack is so triumphant, you know. And it's like, that's what we need right now, especially at a time when it feels like hope is cool. Losing hope is cool, like apathy. Or like in the schools, and the young kids are always taught about what's wrong with the world, and you know, to just kind of be adrift and just become a victim or something, you know. But we're the ones who are shaping this future. We're the ones who are creating it. We're gonna be a part of it. So why don't we come together as a people right now? And it's like, you know, the message of Megalopolis is to start asking these questions. And when we start asking the questions about how we could make our lives better, how we could improve our connection to nature, to each other, to ourselves, whether it's through spaces, whether it's the way we interact with technology, whatever it is, that basically is a utopia when we start having these conversations and asking these questions. You know, because there's so much wrong, and we cannot continue like this if we are actually going to survive and flourish as a species, like Buckminster Fuller, to become a success on Earth, to make the world work, for us to all become international citizens of the Earth and to enjoy it. You know, what does that take? And how do we, escape descending into a state that Mayor Cicero, just not being able to manage the bureaucracy and, the shifts happening in the world. It's like it's all crumbling, and it's all just, it's more than he can manage. And his daughter kind of, leaves him in a way, and she says, the Marcus Aurelius quotes, don't think about your philosophy, embody it. Don't say your philosophy, embody it. All those in that one scene where, he asks her to say the quotes, and then she starts saying the quotes to him, to basically, like, you got to evolve, and you've got to, our thoughts, our world is what our thoughts make of it. And she goes to Caesar, and then she announces she's gonna have a baby with Caesar, and her dad's heartbroken, because he's his mortal nemesis. So that's such a metaphor to someone who's stuck in an old way of viewing things, and in a system that is no longer working, but he holds on to it because he has nothing else. Of course, later on, spoiler alert, he catches on, and he goes with the vision of Caesar and his daughter, and tells them to build nobly. But he eventually stops fighting this thing, and the temptation with the red envelope, when he says, leave Julia, it's best for all of us. I will give you this thing that says that you actually didn't kill your wife, because they pinned that on him, that Caesar killed his wife, and the whole world is against Caesar because the narrative has been turned upside down. And the media, the mayor, they made the world hate Caesar. Sound familiar? It's like that always happens to the greatest artists that have the most impact. If you're not playing by their rules, they're going to bury you and crucify you publicly. So yeah, it's just, Megalopolis is like a reflection of what it costs, or what it takes to create, a beautiful future. And the dialogue is so on point, and, just all the dynamic between the characters, and how we move from a place of getting to that, the city where it's no longer working and people are protesting and it's on fire. It's like we've seen that. We have that here in our time. It's such a reflection of our time. That's why it's the movie of our lifetime, because these cycles of civilization, they constantly come and go. We're like in the fourth turning. If you've read that book, is it Fourth Turning? I believe it is. I haven't actually read the book, but I'm familiar with the concept. Yeah, Fourth Turning. And it's just imperative for us to get our act together as a people, especially with AI coming about. Which way are we going to take this? How are we going to have AI become, how are we going to be the role models for AI to become these intelligent sages, silicone, but nonetheless wise, rational, and has humanity's best interests at heart? We need to direct it. We need to teach AI. It's like it's a baby right now, but we are the ones that should be the role models. So we got to get it together. We have to live and evolve to a place of living on this earth and helping each other, all of us, rising up. And that's what in the documentary In Whose Name about Kanye, he would talk like this, and that's when people would always tell him what to say, what to do, and he'd start losing his mind about it, and he was saying, like, we should bring, to South Africa, bring all these artists, we should create this place, we should make it the safest vacation spot in Africa, and we should make the people rich, bring an economy here. And then, his cousin's like, no, we can't bring that person here to do it. And then he just snaps at her, like, stop telling me what to do. So good. That's what it takes. he doesn't have to yell like that or whatever. It is scary, but um, we're trying to do better. It's hard. Like that scene where Caesar's like saying, I'm trying to do better. Anyways, yeah, and it also actually relates to that scene with Julia where she says, why do you act so bad? But he's not, he really does put love first and just embodies, love. He builds, he creates out of love for the future, for this, this caring that he has. And she says, why do you always pretend to be so bad? And he says, well, if you're good, people don't care. But if you're bad, and he walks away, and Julia says to herself, they try to kill you. So anyways, long story short, all the best creatives, or at least my favorite ones, they're always pushing the paradigm forward. They're pushing things forward. They're creating parallel structures for things to exist on, whether it's education, transport, spaces, living spaces, fashion, music, whatever it is, all these alternate pathways. So when the mainstream and the current systems in play in society on the grid, when people start realizing they're actually collapsing and they're no longer functioning and they're actually more detrimental to us, then we will have those, pathways that are being built in parallel along this new earth in these new paradigms. They're going to become the norm. And I just love to see it. I'm here for it. I keep track of it. That's why I consider myself a futurist, because these current systems are currently actually impeding our development as a species. And it's super crucial right now that we get our act together, because the technology is getting really advanced. And if we leave it up to the wrong people who are not thinking in the way Caesar is about what kind of world we want to live in, then, it's just going to be like a cyberpunk dystopic world, and the Mayor Cicero says it, he's like, as soon as he hears Caesar talking about a utopia, he says, well, utopias turn to dystopia. It's because he's got that mentality, right? Like, how could you even say something like that? That's so weird to me. It's a frequency. We can't fall into fear and all that if we're living, in this abundantly prosperous and technologically advanced. But the technology is not so much around us, like it's not in our face, like a cyberpunk or dystopic world. A bit of a tangent here, but it's integrated into our lives. It's everywhere, but we don't see it necessarily. We live in a minimalistic, even like a more like wabi-sabi existence where, we've integrated with nature. It's kind of like a solar punk minimalism. That's the future, in line with the four elements. But the technology is still there, and we use it and reap its benefits, but it's not all around us. We are still God's creations. So we are really living up to that. And it's not going to be AI who's going to transcend us and have its own motives, because we are birthing it, and we will make sure that it's wise and it has discernment, and it, is just, but right now the way companies are taking AI and using our data and, not even telling us the progress being made behind closed doors and taking public companies private, maximizing profit, that's a very slippery slope. So that's why I love Megalopolis. It's like this pivotal point we're in now, and that's the overarching theme of how I see this movie. Like the political division, the government is no longer trusted. Who's really going to step up and create this new path forward? Like an artist paints the vision of a path forward. They're the ones who write a poem of what it could be and create the vision for the people to walk to. So, but other than that, there's so many other takeaways from the film. And just the making of it adds such an incredible level of it because they had so much fun, and it's the absurdity of it all. But the fact Coppola got this out there and still, against all odds, created this film that he's had in his noggin for like 35 years. Wow. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Megadoc and Megalopolis. I think I talked more about Megalopolis than I did about Megadoc, but I definitely recommend for you to watch. I even invited a friend of mine and I said, let's watch Megadoc together. He'd never seen Megalopolis, but I said, I think that's okay. Like I think you would actually enjoy Megalopolis maybe a bit more because so many people just said it was so strange and weird. If you see the behind the scenes first, you might actually or I don't even know what that would be like. That's why I wanted him to watch it, just so I can see what that experience would be like. Would he enjoy it more or less? Or he'd probably think it's a bit even weirder when he watches the movie. He might be even more lost. Yeah, I don't know. That'd be very interesting. So if you haven't seen Megalopolis first, I'd love to see your reaction to Megadoc and then to Megalopolis. Or if you've seen Megalopolis, I'd recommend watching it another time. It's one of those films that you just have to sit with a little bit longer, let it simmer. There's definitely a lot in there, I'm telling you guys. It's beautiful. It's great. And the message is really, the last scene is what it's all about. So it could be just weirdness and improv games the whole time and just strangeness and witchery from, Aubrey Plaza's character, the succubus, just all these things. It's so biblical too. False idols and collapse of Babylons and, Tower of Babels, But it's all about that last scene. That's what it comes down to, as a people. Anyways, so yeah, that's my review. Megadoc. Check it out and let me know your thoughts. And let me know what you thought about this review, this little show I put on here. I'd love a like for the video. Of course, your thoughts and a subscription. I'm building up this channel from scratch. My other ones got taken down. I'm a little more careful about the topics I talk about and say because I do want to have a successful YouTube channel, and I definitely want to have guests on. Like, I'd love to have Mike Figgis on and just talk about it. That'd be so awesome, man. Honestly. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Honestly, I really appreciate you staying here this long, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.